Welcome back, everybody, to the Rusty Tub. I know that it's been a little bit of a bit of spell, but I've been doing quite a lot of work here at Wellington Towers. I've taken this idea and kind of, I guess I've almost just copied it note for note from a YouTuber named Hypnotizd, and it's the idea. The idea behind it is to use beef Wellingtons. Let's see. To power, to give great power. So each one of these things makes. So you need dough, which comes from wheat and water. Any kind of mushroom, spinach from Harvestcraft, and then either raw beef or tofu. And tofu comes from pressing down soybeans. So what I did was, this is a labor of love. This has been many hours in the making. I want you to imagine that each of these levels that takes about 2,450 sticks, and you have to double right click on each of these blocks in a 27 by 27. Actually, it's not quite 27. It's 25 by 25, and I went out one block too far in each direction, and that's because I misread. Didn't do the planning myself. So I've got it shut off for the moment, but each of these plants is, I think you might see, it doesn't matter. Each of these plants is a 10 by 10 by 10 agricraft, which was quite simple to do. What I would just get a seed, and I would do a cross, one in the center and then one off on each side of that center. And the sides I would put double sticks. You get these crop sticks. I'll show you here. Got a number of different things that I'm interested in showing off today. So you take some sticks, you put it in a circle, and you get these crop sticks. And then you would right-click once to put the 4x's here, right? And then you right-click on that same block again, and you would get a cross-sectional top. And that allows for plants to spread into that block. And so you wait for the center to mature, and then it will branch off into each of the adjacent sides, and each time it has a chance to mutate up and never down, which is great. And unlike bee breeding, which they can mutate all over the place, very straightforward. Get yourself a watering can and call it a day. I think before I go into the details of this, I want to show off some other things in this mod pack that I've kind of found. And it's interesting is that some of these are parts of mods that I've played traditionally. So first I'm going to start with Tinker's Construct. You might see that I have another tab up here. Let me check the video real quick. We're still good. Okay. This is the Tinker's tab. There's another way to do this. If you press F7, number pad 7. Oh, I must not have an unlock on. There we go. You get this big thing. Lots of different information here. But let's go more traditional methods here. So the first thing, I think I've shown us off before, the Traveler's Gloves. They're pretty simple to make. It's 5 pieces of leather. Maybe it's more than that, but no, I think it's 5. So 5 pieces of leather, and you can put haste on this, and that haste applies to every weapon that you use. That's great. I found that if you have a resonant jetpack on that's armored, it gives you diamond level protection, but doesn't have durability. So as long as it has RF in it, that's good. This other thing, Knapsack, gives you another tab here, like a golden bag of holding, except doesn't take an inventory slot. It takes this slot. And I'm interested in soul binding this. I think I'm going to do that. And then you can use the big backpack and store it in there. Very cool. What else? What else? The other thing, this is the Warp Book, and the Warp Book is tremendous. Some of you may have used the Enhanced Charm of Dislocation from Draconic Evolution, and you saw that I was looking at Draconic Evolution, and you cannot make these things. Most of them. Some of them you can. Some of them you can make. But there's no point in making this stuff. Well, that's not totally true. You can't make this draconic core, and that's That would be something that you would want to make for the draconic powered spawners. Well, I went into the end and I killed the Ender Dragon and I got a bunch of ore dust. Finally, first time I've ever seen it, and this heart. But it looks like it's all shop stuff, and I haven't messed with that too great a deal, which is a shame. But so the enhanced charm of dislocation, I got tired of making this trip back and forth from the house, and I know that I think Sierra Christie and Warhound are doing some project off somewhere else. And Locke has already started to venture, and that's good because it keeps the latency of the spawn low. You know, the crafting hub. And that was one of the big lessons that I learned from the last mod pack, was that you can't put all your eggs in one basket, or you'll get broken eggs. So the warp book. So when you can make this by putting I think it's a book and an ender. Let's see, at warp. There we go. That's how you search for just from this mod. I have no idea what that is. May or may not produce. So just a book and an ender pearl, and you get this, and it's pretty self-explanatory. I didn't need too much to figure it out. If you shift and right-click, you get the interface, and it'll be empty. And what you do is you get yourself a stack of these unbound warp pages. I mean, you really don't need a stack, but you know, however many you think you'll need, one for each destination. And when you pull that page out, I don't really want to mess with my things. Let's see. Do I have one that I don't need? Stronghold, Desert, Crafting Hub. So you'll have your sheet of paper, your unbound page. And if you shift right-click it, you're going to clear it. So you just right-click. Just standing, no modifiers. And it binds it to that location. And then you shift right-click your warp book. Oops. And you put that page in here. And then when you scroll over to your warp book, you right-click it, you get this menu. See, so I'm going to go to the crafting hub. It doesn't cost you, it costs you hunger. And if you have full hunger and some saturation, which is the second hunger meter, it'll take from that. It's quite a bit, but I mean, if you're using it a lot, you will need some food. But the enhanced charm of dislocation required ender pearls, so that's pretty cool. But anyways, this is the desert biome that I found. See, I just teleported all the way across the map. Now here I am, and the home is 3,000 meters away. This Signalum crossbow is incredible. Finally got it maxed out. Okay, so Wellington Towers. Did find the stronghold. I'll probably leave coordinates for that somewhere. Wrong one. Wellington Towers. Okay, so I shut the whole thing off because it's pretty laggy when it's working, and that's one of the reasons to build it so far out. I have 10, 10, 10 crops here. I've got mushrooms, spinach, soybeans, and wheat. And then the other thing I want to show off is chunk loading. So if we look, let's see J here, and I go snap to me, and I look down here, these are the chunks, and I intentionally built it in the middle of these chunks because our chunk loaders are called dimensional anchors. So let's see. Add dimensional. Excuse me. Here we go. So it's a very inexpensive recipe. It's just a block of iron and 4 iron ingots. I have this one down here. And what I've done is I've put an ender chest that's green, green, orange, and a pipe to push Eyes of Ender into this. And the larger that, so this is you use the right button to expand the area, you use the left button to restrict the area, and it starts by on a 1x1 chunk. And if it's just a 1 chunk loader, then it will stay, each Eye of Ender works for 9 hours. If it's a 3x3, then each Eye of Ender works for about an hour and 10 minutes. And one of the things that I've done is I've moved all of the ender pearls And this isn't going to be the most flawless system for quite a while until this fills up. But I have each of these ender farming stations. I have it automated such that I've got a stack of wood and a stack of stone here. And the wood gets crafted into planks. The planks get pushed over here into this inventory, get crafted into sticks. The sticks and the cobble come together, and they make hoes. And the hoes get populated into the farming station. When this one breaks, it needs a hoe to. This farming station needs a hoe to harvest this crop. When that one breaks, this auto workbench will send one over, and then craft another one, and it'll do that twice. And the crafting stations, these auto workbenches are very slow, but they don't require energy. The second thing is over on this side, the ender lilies are being sent, or the ender pearls are being sent here, and I have to, right now I have to manually invest. Like I have to go to the nether and take a bunch of blaze rods, grind them down, and stick them over here. But that's basically 5 or 6 stacks of these eyes of ender. They're crafted in this workbench and then put into this chest. And this will work for you know, if players are conservative. This will work for a great deal of time. I think this setup will work for a very long time to come. I mean, if you're doing an ender quarry, you only need the chunk that the quarry's in, you know, so each pearl ends up an hour. But you'd need one of these chests. You'd need some sort of item conduit, and then the dimensional anchor for each location. And I'm going to use this fancy thing to show you that I've got a 3x3 of this chunk loaded using that same system. And I'll probably fancy that up later. But that's loading the crafting area and the power plant, which I hope I remembered to shut off. By the way, Big Reactors is awesome. Yeah, it's deactivated. But Yellorium is much more rare in this mod. Holy cows. So, in comes the beef Wellington. So let's get back to business here. I'm so ADD. All right, so you saw the first areas. These should have been 25 by 25s. I made them 27 by 20. That's bizarre. I need to add. These are not growing well because they only get. I need to add more glowstone, as I did down here. I need to do that to all of the levels. Anyways, regardless, they're a little bit too big, but I'll switch. I'll turn it on and show you. So the harvester pulls all this stuff in, and one thing that I've learned about harvesters is that you don't have to empty the sludge, but they work much slower when they're full of sludge. So I do have the sludge being pumped out. I probably need to find some way to void the sludge, because I didn't have this on for even for a full day, and my 4 drums are pretty full. So I'll probably have to find a way to do that. No big deal. I could probably use Buildcraft and a void pipe. All right, so the wheat, the intensive amount of setup here. This is dark glass. Mushrooms have to have darkness to grow in, and since I don't have a magma torch here, oftentimes I do get mobs that spawn inside here. They don't do anything. If they were slimes, I'd be in real trouble. If this was a swamp biome and there were slimes, the slimes would jump around inside the cage here and pound the dirt flat and break all the mushrooms and screw the whole thing up. So fortunate in that regard. Down here, I'm pretty sure that I made too many. But that's, I think that I didn't need the back part. And that's because, again, I said that I built this as a reflection of a YouTuber named Hypnotizd. And the mod pack that he was using, it was a 3-stage process. So soybeans get piped into this top one. They get pressed into silky tofu and soy milk. The silky tofu gets piped into here. The soy milk gets thrown into a trash can. And that might not be the most efficient method. I hate throwing things away, but I couldn't think of a use for the soy milk, and I already had this thing going on here. And beef Wellingtons are an incredible food source. They replenish nine food bar, nine honks of meat, haunches. So once the firm tofu goes, it tries to go over to the cyclic assemblers first, but if there's no room, then it'll be stored in here. So, firm tofu. I think all of these are empty, except the mushrooms. The mushrooms continue to grow. I am in dire needs of iron. Each beef culinary generator. Oh, gosh, really? Okay, so I need like many stacks, five more stacks of iron, and I've used just a ridiculous amount of iron, and I've gone harvesting and mining, so it's just a very iron intensive setup. There's a lot of pistons that are involved to do this iron at every stage. The cyclic assemblers, this was a challenge for me to build, to get it so that this would stay full. I tried with just 1, 2, 3. It wasn't working, so I had to make a stack of these world interaction upgrades, more iron, right, in order to pump water fast enough. This is probably, if you guys need a copious amount of water for like a steam project, this transfer node with world interaction upgrade is probably going to be your ticket. It produces an enormous amount of water, and that's these cyclic assemblers. What you do is you put a blank schematic in here, and then you click on the schematic page. You put the pattern in, you hit check, and then that'll do this. And so what this one did is I put a pot and a bucket of water, and I hit check. And the schematic says use water and a pot to make salt. And so all I need in the inventory is a pot, and the water gets pumped in the back, and it makes salt. And the salt gets pushed straight into here, only the top. So if you look at the configuration here, the green says only the top. The purple says only the bottom row. And the blue is for the water and for this whole thing. Well, I've got blue set to the back, so it's only taking water. And then the orange is out. It's outputting to the top, the dough. The dough goes into this inventory. And this is the one I might replace this. Let me finish this other one, cyclic assembler. So this one takes wheat and the mix and the mortar pestle. One wheat and one mortar pestle in our schematic. It makes flour, and then pushes the flour to the east into here. So this flour, salt, makes dough. Once the dough is made, the salt here, the flour here, the dough is made, it's pushed up into here, and it's combined with, it should be firm tofu from the pressers, lettuce, and spinach and a mushroom with the dough on top. And if I had ways to get more specific division here, this would be sufficient. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to a block called Steve's Machine Shop or Steve's Workshop or something like that, where you can upgrade it and do a bunch of different stuff. But that'll be down the road. So once the tofu's crafted, the beef Wellington, this thing makes the beef Wellington. And it goes down here and gets stored into the... It tries to first fill this thing up, and then it'll get stored in a deep storage. And then this feeds these culinary generators. And when I get more cable and more generators, I'll set it up nicer. And each beef Wellington creates 60.5 RF per tick for 2.5 minutes. So it's a really good amount of, it's a really solid amount of power. And the idea is that I would have, I want to say, 8 times 64 generators doing 60 RF a tick. It can get really expansive. So yeah, this has been many hours of work. It's totally renewable. I'm going to turn it on here, and the chunk's going to it's going to get kind of chunky, and then I think that'll be the conclusion of the video. I'm trying to remember here. Oh, one last thing. I know this is scattered through the video, but baubles. You can put your angel ring on your ring bar, and then this ring of magnetization is incredible from Botania. I really encourage you to get that. These are the only two things that I have soulbound. This thing is great. It picks up stuff from the world for you, but if you throw stuff out, it doesn't try to bring it to you for a fair bit of time. I think it's maybe 10 seconds or 15 seconds. So if you're having trouble when you're mining, and you know, like if you use the extra bees one, which is also a good magnet, it just spams you with that noise and all that stuff. This one doesn't, and you can, like, let's say you're 200 meters from the home and you've got your inventories full and you wanted those extra those bees that you just mined or something like that. They'll stick to your body the whole way home without an annoying sounds or anything. So it's probably the best magnet that I've played with. I've played with magnets that they do their job. This one does the job, but it's got some nice things on the top of it. So that's a side note there. So when I flip this switch, what should happen is these side tanks, these barrels here are kind of deposit points for soybeans. The extraction on them is set to round robin, so it should populate these evenly. My only concern is that it's going to do it a stack at a time. So I might just want to do maybe 2 at a time. I'm going to have to mess with this a little bit, because the problem is, what happens if I only get 5 stacks and it fills up right away and then sends the stacks into the first. It's tough. You need to be able to round robin it so that it disperses evenly. But let's hit this. I'm going to get some poor frame rates for a while. We'll kind of see how it's going and then conclude the video. So that's now the whole system's on. You should see the harvester missed this block out here on the side, on the flank, and that's because it's too wide. In the back, in the very far distance, the back is missing 2 rows actually. So yeah, this is my creation. It's so wonderful to see this come together. This has been hours upon hours of work. The ender lilies were just a convenient addition. So we're making tofu again. So the soybeans are getting sent down here and into these pressers. The pressers compress the soybeans into silky, and then the firm tofu and the soy milk gets sent out. So these all have 18, 16. Oh, it did work. Wow, well, that's fancy. It's like, it did work, but you weren't expecting it to work? Now, these aren't actually producing power because the battery's full. And for a while there, it wasn't chunk loader. I just set up the chunk loader today. And there are some problems with the battery. I think that's going to be the next thing that I work on, is kind of reconfiguring the battery so there's a way to send power into it and a way to pull power out of it so that we have 2 channels. I think it's easier for me to set up that way. Maybe that's just because I'm dense. I don't know. But certainly need a lot more iron. And these things work very quickly. So the last problem here. I need some lettuce. And is that all I need? Some tofu. Do I have tofu? Yep. And then I'll set this up. And this is, anytime the machine sets down, it's probably going to create this issue. You can see that system performance is already rough. There we go. So this may foul up again because the stocks aren't very big. We'll see. If it's, I mean, if you can kind of see here that it's steadily going down, and I think that means that the cyclic assembler is working too fast, and that's going to create some trouble, as I don't have a way to set the cyclic assembler to leave one stack of everything in there, and that might be why I have to switch over to the other block, because what's going to happen is I'm going to run out of spinach, and they're going to shove a mushroom in that place, and it's going to break. So that'll be the last hurdle that I have to kind of overcome here, and then the next thing will just be creating stacks of these culinary generators and really reaping the benefit of it. But I hope you guys like the project here. This has taken me several days to do. It has been very rewarding. I have to throw some more glowstone in here. Getting these ender lilies going, I went into the end because I needed too many pearls, and that's also why I made this scythe. I went in, farmed a bunch of pearls. Not the easiest thing in the world. I sure do miss that Draconic Evolution stuff. The Ender Dragon took 5 shots, I think, with the Signal and Crossbow. I guess I have nightmares from playing Vanilla because he's tough. But the Signal and Crossbow made short work of him. This thing took me a very long time to get down to 0.25 second draw speed. In the last mod pack, it was that fast from the get-go. In this one, it took max upgrades, Nether Star, and then lots of levels to get upgraded. These crossbow bolts are amazing. Modifiers, I can sharpen these up some more. Ran out of quartz too. Been consuming a lot of materials, have been adding a lot of materials, but that's how it goes. So, hope to see you guys on the server. Hope you're having fun with the pack. I'm still a little bit confuzzled about the questing system part of it, but it's been good. It's been fun. The next project I think is to update the battery and then to get into applied energistics. Anyways, be well. Have a good Sunday, and I'll see you guys on the server.